And so I want to kind of get into a little bit of this particular area that's it's really about life orientation. I think that's sort of my way of sort of simplifying the whole subject. It might be life orientation. There's um, because when we do the inner work or the esoteric work, the inner work of looking into our own true nature, penetrating through our belief systems and our ideas and our opinions, and ultimately seeing the emptiness of all these. Emptiness simply meaning that reality is not contained within our ideas or our beliefs, whether those beliefs are about ourselves or others or the world at large, whatever it may be. I suppose to some extent everybody has certain beliefs, certain ways that their life is oriented, and that orientation often comes out of, well, it often comes out of unexamined beliefs sometimes that we don't even know that we have, but that are still kind of running our lives and orienting us day to day, almost minute to minute, you know. But when we do this deep inner exploration, and we bring that our meditation and our inquiry, and we start to penetrate through all the layers of identity, of belief, of opinion, and we at some point break through into a whole different domain or dimension of experience, of consciousness, you could say. And it's a domain, a dimension of consciousness that is really in many ways not defined by belief. It's not defined by ideas. It's not defined by opinion. And when we break through into that, it's a vast space of freedom. It's subjectively experienced as very, very open and spacious and vast, and that's also experienced as a tremendous state of freedom, a kind of liberation for the limiting ideas, the limiting kind of identities that we tend to carry around, and in many ways we're taught as we grow up to break through that, almost like when you're driving through a thick fog bank in your car and you can hardly see where you're going, and all of a sudden you break through and the fog parts, and it's almost like you're suddenly arrived in a different world, even though you're actually in the same world. The fog is parted and you can suddenly see clearly, and there's so much more space, the vista of your vision and your experience is so much vaster and broader. And something very akin to that happens in our own spiritual exploration, in our own deeper spiritual experience, the experience of our true nature, is we do enter into a domain of vastness and freedom. And it's often described as a kind of the experience of no limitation, because, of course, it's the ideas we have, it's the beliefs we have that provide the boundaries of perceived limitation. And, of course, we not only believe those boundaries, we not only perceive them, but we also feel them. We experience them as long as we hold them. So to sort of break through into a dimension beyond all that is very, very, very liberating, very freeing, to be unburdened by conditioning, by conditioned ideas and notions. Because our conditioning, it also even conditions our perceptions. Literally what we see, how much we see, What we see is literally with our eyes is predicated upon the structure that does the perceiving. And so in many, many ways, the deep inner work frees us up of a lot of this. This is one of the great reasons to do it. There's a point in this teaching where we really focus, because I think focus is what gives something its strength, its power, its intensity. So there's a certain point in this teaching where we really focus the inquiry and the meditations on the discovery of our true nature. You know, because it's us. However we perceive and think about ourselves, it's us, each of us, that holds all of the other beliefs that we have about everything. So if we can break through and get a fundamental insight into ourself, the one that holds all the other beliefs, we're really sort of approaching this in the most fundamental sense. We're approaching it in a way that really can open to us the very ground of our being. Now, all that so far all sounds wonderful in one way or another. I think this is what a lot of people are looking for. They're certainly looking for the byproducts of breaking through perceived barriers of identity and conditioning. There's a whole other side to this that's not talked about as often, and it's actually one of the things that I intend more and more to hopefully bring a more clear articulation of this whole other dimension of the spiritual life, which is really just life itself. And that is when we have these deeper breakthroughs, however they come about, or if we simply start to see beyond all the limiting ideas and opinions that we operate through, and we start to see that they're fundamentally empty. What I mean by fundamentally empty is none of them are actually absolutely true. Of course, no belief, no concept could ever contain absolute truth. First of all, simply for the simple reason that a concept being a concept at best is a representation, a kind of symbolic representation of something else. And a representation is never the same as that which it represents.